You see, I don't understand how Gunner Stockton is seen to be a huge question, a huge concern for Georgia this year because he's unproven. He doesn't have a lot of experience. We don't know what he's capable of. When there are other teams in the SEC this year, like Ole Miss with Austin Simmons, Texas with Arch Manning, who are also starting unproven quarterbacks. But those teams, those quarterbacks are getting the benefit of a doubt. But Gunner Stockton can't, though, because he's not flashy. He's the biggest question mark that Georgia has walking into the season because they don't know what they're going to get out of him. But you don't know what Texas is going to get out of Arch Manning. You think you know what you're going to get out of Arch Manning because of the last name. But if you were to remove the Manning name off of the back of Arch Manning's jersey, you wouldn't view him the same. You wouldn't have the same expectations for him as what you do when you see the name on the back of his jersey. You believe more in Austin Simmons than you do in Gunner Stockton because he was a more highly touted recruit coming out of high school. Gunner Stockton was a 4-star recruit. He was a blue chipper. So why is it that Gunner Stockton is the most doubted quarterback entering this season when everybody else, there's tons of other quarterbacks in this conference that are just as inexperienced as what Gunner Stockton is, but he's supposed to be the Achilles heel for Georgia this year? I don't believe that. I actually believe the complete opposite. I believe that Gunner Stockton is about to humiliate all of the doubters, and he's about to be good enough to get Georgia right back into the SEC championship and possibly win another national championship. Gunner Stockton doesn't need to be an elite quarterback for Georgia to contend for a national title. The last 3 national champions, Ohio State, they had Will Howard. He wasn't an elite quarterback. He was a good quarterback, not elite. Michigan won with the handoff merchant, J.J. McCarthy. Just because he got drafted in the first round didn't mean that he had elite production. He just had elite NFL traits that made him worthy of being a first-round selection. And not too far ago, or long ago, Georgia won back-to-back national championships with a walk-on quarterback named Stetson Bennett, who, by the way, at one point, some will argue with you, wasn't even the best quarterback on his team during Georgia's first national title run under Kirby Smart. Some were arguing that JT Daniels was more talented than Stetson Bennett. Nick Saban, some of his best teams, he didn't have the most talented quarterbacks. Like when he won with Jake Coker, A.J. McCarron was the most accomplished quarterback, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was the most talented quarterback he had. He wasn't more talented than Bryce Young and Tua Tagovailoa. Greg McElroy, he won Nick Saban's first ever national championship at Alabama, and he wasn't that talented. You don't need to have a uber talented quarterback to win in college football. You don't need a Lamborghini to win a national championship. All you need is a Honda Civic that can get you from point A to point B, that doesn't have a lot of miles on it, that's reliable, isn't going to break down on you. That's what Gunner Stockton is for Georgia. That's what Kirby Smart wants out of his quarterbacks. Do you not remember Kirby Smart picked Jake Fromm over Justin Fields? He doesn't care about the flash. He doesn't care about the pizzazz. He just cares about consistency. That's what Georgia didn't receive a lot out of Carson Beck last year. Carson Beck had a lot more on his plate due to the offensive line being inconsistent because of injuries, a receiving core that led the nation in drops, and questionable play calling at times. So the situation didn't help Carson Beck that much, but he had a down season. Gunner Stockton will be much better taking care of the football than what Carson Beck was last year. And it also helps that the offensive line should get back to playing at the standard that we've grown accustomed to seeing a Georgia offensive line play at, with an improved group of wide receivers, bringing in a guy like Zachariah Branch out of the transfer portal, then you're also going to have the ground game there. So you're not going to have as much pressure on Gunner Stockton as what you did on Carson Beck's shoulders last year. Kirby Smart has never been a head coach that's been all about throwing the football at will. He's always been about complementary football, being balanced, being able to run the football and throw it just as well. You got to have that balance to win in the SEC. When you get too overly reliant on one thing, you get yourself in trouble. Gunner Stockton doesn't need to be a Lamborghini. He doesn't need to be a Corvette. He doesn't need to be a Rolls Royce. All Georgia needs Gunner Stockton to be is a Honda Civic that's going to be consistent, that can get them to where they need to go, which is the SEC championship and possibly another national championship.